In this video, we're going to talk about how to create an ID boring operation in SURFCAM Lathe. If we move up to the Operations Manager, you can see that previously we've center drilled and drilled the bore. Now all that's left to do is machine it to final size. I'm going to click on Done here, and we're going to move up to NC, down to Lathe, and over to Turn. I'm going to left mouse click on Turn, and now SURFCAM is asking me to select the beginning element of the part. The beginning element of the part is where we want the tool to begin machining the bore. So I'm going to make sure I'm in the chain mode here, and then left mouse click at this end of the part. Now SURFCAM asks me to select the ending element of the part. I'll click at the other end of the line. The tool will then travel from this end of the line to this end of the line. SURFCAM now asks me to select the beginning element of the material boundary. Since we've removed most of the material with the 1-inch drill earlier, there's not much material left here against the wall. So I'm going to skip this step by clicking on Done. Now our tool information appears. As you can see up at the top, it says Select Tool, and it gives us an OD face turning tool. This brings up a very important point. You cannot machine ID bores with OD tools. So we have to go to Select Tool and choose an ID tool. I'm going to narrow down my tool list a little bit by clicking on the 80-degree button, which will give me tools that have 80 degrees of tool tip geometry. And I'm going to find an ID tool. Here I've got an ID face turning tool with a 1/32 radius. I'm going to left mouse click on this and then left mouse click on OK. This is our third tool in our tool list, so I'm going to make this tool number 3 by typing in 3, pressing Tab, and then Tab again, and setting tool number, length offset, and diameter offset all to 3. At this stage I can move over to turn control. The first thing I'll want to look at in turn control is that my operation is set for ID turn. If it says OD turn or anything else, you probably have a problem and you need to change it. We're going to move down the list a little bit, and we can see our retract clearance and our plunge clearance are both set at 0.1. These are standard default values. The next thing I'm going to look at is how I want to cut the wall of the part. Here it says rough and/or finish cut. Here it's set to both, meaning that we're going to do a rough cut and a finish cut. Since I've removed most of the material with the drill previously, all I want to do here is do a finishing cut. So I'm going to left mouse click on Finish, and that will set up that parameter. Another thing I might want to do is to create a lead-in move. Here you see we have a lead-in angle of 180 degrees. That means we're going to approach the part from the right and then move towards the left. But our lead-in length is zeroed, so 0 lead-in length means no lead-in whatsoever. In order to get a lead-in, I have to give it a dimension. In this case, I'm going to give it a dimension of 0.5. There's really nothing else we need to do here, so I'm just going to left mouse click on OK and answer the next question that SURFCAM asks. Here it's asking me to pick the lathe retract point. That is, where is the tool going to go after it finishes the operation. I'm going to move up here to Point, left mouse click on it, and then left mouse click on my retract point here. The next thing it asks is to pick the lathe clearance point. That is a point inside the bore that the tool will move to before retracting out of the bore. In this case, we've got a retract clearance set at 0.1, which will bring the tip of the tool away from the bore before the retract move. So we really don't need a clearance point. If we did, we could either move up to Sketch and click where we wanted the tool to retract to, or we could create a point within the bore that we want the tool to retract to, and then choose Point and click on that point. We don't have to do either one of those choices here since the bore is wide open, so I'm going to skip this question by clicking on Done. I'm going to accept the tool path, and now you can see the tool moves down, comes in, moves into the bore, follows the lead-in move, against the wall, retracts away from the bore, retracts out, and back to our retract point. I'd like to show you another way of performing an ID boring operation in lathe. The ID diameter of this bore is 1.25 inches, so I'm going to go up to NC, down to Lathe, and then down to Drill this time. Once I'm in drill, SURFCAM is going to ask me to select the starting location for the can cycle. In this case, it's a point at the beginning of the bore. I'll left mouse click on this point and our tool information appears. I'm going to select the tool now, and as you can see under the drilling operations we have boring tools available. I've preset this tool as a custom tool by filling in these blanks here of bore diameter 1.25 inches, diameter of the shank and the boring tool 0.75 inches with a maximum length of 6 inches. I'm going to accept these values by clicking on OK, and we're going to give it a tool number of 4 in this case. Once I've got that, I'll go to Lathe Drill Control and tell it that our depth for the bore is 6 inches, which is the distance from the beginning of the bore to the end of it. In this case, we're going to run all the way to the tip of the tool, so I'm going to set the depth to be at the tip. I'll left mouse click on OK here, and then SURFCAM asks me to pick the lathe retract point. I'm going to pick the point that I've picked earlier, and then accept the tool path. In this case, the boring tool will come in on center line, bore to the end of the bore, and then retract outwards and back to the retract point. To show our ID boring operation, I've opened up SURFCAM Verify. A couple of changes that I've made are: number one, I've turned the material into a wireframe mode so we can see inside the part. Secondly, I've slowed the speed way down so we can see the tool paths a little more clearly. Finally, I'm just going to left mouse click on the play button. Here we'll see our center drill, and then our boring operation.